Welcome to the Grace to Lead podcast. I'm Belinda Gaston, your host, and listen, if you are a Christian woman who leads at work, in your own business, or even in ministry, you are in the right place. Here you'll find practical advice and encouragement as you lead through real conversations that will challenge and inspire you. So join me on this journey to becoming better leaders God's way. Are you ready? Let the journey begin. Welcome to the Grace to Lead podcast. I am Belinda Gaston, your host, and listen, we have such a good guest on. This is not just a guest for me, but also my friend, and I am honored that she is on our show today. We have none other than the NaQwannaThomas. She is a fashion buyer for a major retail company. She has over 15 years experience in the fashion industry. NaQwanna is a dedicated personal wardrobe stylist and the CEO of Styled by NAC LLC. She is an expert in empowering individuals by helping them reimagine the way they view their personal style. I can attest to that because I am her client and she has worked with me and changed how I show up. Her mission statement is to style the world one person at a time. NaQwanna is an active member of Spirit and Truth International Worship Center in Loganville, Georgia, and currently serves as co-leader of the LIT ministry, which is Living Intentionally Through Tribulations. The LIT ministry was birthed about a year ago to establish a community of young adults who want to strengthen their relationships and are on fire for the Lord. She also serves as co-lead for the social media ministry and provides counsel and oversight for the Extraordinary Women's Ministry leadership team. So, y'all, she is leading in her corporate space, in ministry at church, and is really called to minister the gospel and is a minister in training. NaQwanna is also a committed wife to Sean Thomas and dedicated mother to Torian and Tegan, and lives her life to be better than the day before by God's grace. So would you stop what you're doing, unless you're driving, and welcome virtually NaQwannaThomas to the Grace to Lead broadcast. Welcome, NaQwanna.
Thank you so much. I am beyond humbled and honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We are happy to have you. We're happy to have you. And today our conversation, listeners, will be all about leading with style, particularly for those of you who are younger leaders. If you are a young leader, if you're a millennial leader, this is the conversation you want to pay attention to. We're going to talk about that in this conversation. So go ahead and grab your journals, your notebooks, your digital note-taking devices, and let's get started with our conversation. So NaQwanna, I think let's start with telling our listeners a little bit about your leadership journey. How did you get into leadership? How did you start, and where are you now?
Oh my goodness. Where did I start? Funny enough, to be honest, I always wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be a judge. That's what everybody knew my whole life. That was always my passion. I grew up with always just having this sense of style, my own personal style. And that was something that was just, I think, birthed within me. I knew I loved fashion, but I wasn't aware of what that career could look like. I didn't know anything about what it took to be a buyer, what that even was, or that was any kind of career path. And after college, I moved to Atlanta, and my mom kind of said, well, you don't have a job. Are you going to law school? Or are you coming back to Brooklyn? Those were the options. Are you going to law school, or are you coming back home? You got two choices, ma'am. So I did not want to leave Atlanta because I was dating Sean at that time. So see, I had a reason to stay.
Had a reason
to stay, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think I didn't really want to go into. I took the LSAT and I did well, but I really wasn't ready to go into law school. I said, I don't know what I really want to do. And I got a job, almost like a clerical admin job at Macy's corporate and in Atlanta. And I worked there for a little while. And I honestly fell in love with corporate retail. I mean, I had to have a conversation with myself and my mother and Sean, who I knew would be my husband, because I knew that I wasn't going to law school. I knew that this was where I wanted to be and that I saw myself in this industry. I was excited about it. And I think moving from a city like New York and moving to Atlanta, it gave me something that I was used to. In the industry of corporate retail, every day is different. You kind of don't know from day to day what's going to happen. And that was what excited me. And I was passionate about the fashion and how I could impact a company by making choices on my own, having the prerogative to make these choices and these calls within the business and seeing it manifest in sales and yielding results on the bottom line was very exciting for me. So I took that role, and even though I had a degree, I came in on a role that was more of a clerical role, and I knew what I wanted to do. I put my head down and I did everything necessary to become an assistant buyer. I'm like, listen, I want to be in this industry. I'm going to be a buyer. And what do I have to do to get there? So I became an assistant buyer at Macy's, and that office closed. And I still knew that, like, even in that moment when the office shut down, I knew that I still didn't want to go back to law school. I was going to find something else in what I was doing. And I eventually ended up at K&G, and I've been there over a decade at this point. And that's where I really grew in leadership. I never would have expected that this would be my life and my story, but I can definitely say God has blessed me. I love what I do. I really, really am passionate about what I do, the same way I'm passionate about it in my styling business and being able to impact people individually. I feel that same passion, and that's who I am. And I think it defines who I am in every aspect of my life. But that's how I became a corporate leader in retail.
Thank you for sharing that. I never knew that story. And I want to pause for a second and highlight some things that you share, because I think this is a really good part of our conversation. The first is, you had made a decision that you were going to go to law school. You'd be a lawyer, you'd be a judge of some sort, and this was your career path, and this is what you wanted to do for a very long time. But then when you graduated college, you realize, wait, this isn't quite it. And a lot of times in our leadership journey, our career journey, we feel, oh, we're going down a particular path.
Yep.
And then we realize, wait, this path isn't exactly what I want. And you're at a crossroads. And you can decide to keep going down the path that makes sense. I mean, you said you did well on the LSAT, so more than likely you would have done well in law school and as an attorney and as a judge. But you made the decision to find out, no, that's not quite what it is. There's something else. And that takes a level of courage and boldness that can be hard to push and do. So my next question for you is about that. I mean, what gave you the courage to really follow what you knew to be true? I mean, you said you had to have a conversation with yourself, but what gave you the courage to do that? Why not just follow the path that you were already on?
Wow. Great question. And honestly, hearing that question even makes me think, because I mean, my family was very, you going to be a judge.
Were they already calling you Judge NaQwanna?
Yes. Yes, they were. But yeah, I definitely believe that was probably more difficult than I give it credit for being, like, thinking about how that decision would impact my life and what that looked like. I definitely think it took a level of boldness and confidence. But I think the biggest thing was the support. I believed and knew that Sean Thomas was my husband, and I was not going back to New York. So over all the career stuff and everything else, I knew that was where my life was headed. And when I prayed and I talked to him, and he was very supportive. He was like, well, listen, whatever you want to do, whatever's going to make you happy, if this is where you believe that you want to be, and this is where you're going to grow and thrive and all these things, then go ahead, And one thing, I think God has been true to his word in my life. And when I seek him and yield to him, even at that level of my spiritual walk, even though it's nowhere near as developed as it is today, God was showing me in signs and speaking clearly to me. I remember praying and saying, God, show me what my next step is and what I'm going to do and where I'm supposed to be. And this opportunity, God just laid it out so perfectly for me. I mean, it was not a lot of struggle or a lot of, issues to be able to get the job. It was that simple. And I prayed and God opened the door. I walked straight through it. And God told me that was where I was supposed to be. So really listening to God and listening to what God said and yielding to what, he had already ordered my steps to do, I think was a big, big part of it. And my family was very supportive. They fell in line, even though I knew they hung their hats on Judge NaQwanna, like that was going to be the future for our family. But they really believed that when I believed and was passionate about it and saying this is where I'm supposed to be, they all, I mean, my aunt, my uncle, they supported me, my mom, of course, and Sean as well. And to have that level of support from them, and everybody is not blessed to have that level of support. Sometimes it's not easy for people's family to be like, okay, we support you in the new decision that you're going to make to be an artist or to be a musician or to be whatever it is that they decide they want to be after going to college for 4 years. But my family really believed in what I wanted to do. So that was a big listening to praying first, seeking God and listening to what I knew God had for me, and then following those steps that God had ordered for me and really asking for support from my family and them yielding to that.
And I think that's something that all of our listeners can relate to. I think we've all been in a place where we're at a crossroads and we've had to make a decision. And some of us have chosen to follow the path, even if that doesn't fulfill our purpose or our passion. We had another woman who talked about purpose. And some people will make the bold decision, but it's what you're saying is it was all, even though it was a bold decision, it was all grounded in what God directed you. And when we do that, when we follow God in our career path, then he orchestrates the rest and it all comes together. So thank you. Thank you again for sharing that. And so
absolutely.
You started out in this kind of administrative role, and then you've moved. Now you're in leadership, you're a fashion buyer, you have a team, and you're leading in church. And so now you've been leading for a while, and I'm sure that you are in spaces where you are the youngest leader in the room.
Wow.
I'd love to hear more about your experience thus far and the challenges. If you had to say, in my leadership journey, the biggest challenge I've experienced is this. What would you say are the biggest challenges you've experienced in your move into leadership as a young leader? And how did you manage those challenges?
I think, honestly, when I hear you ask that question, the number one thing that comes to me is navigating people. I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me. Just to give you a little backstory on who I am, the oldest of 3 on my mother's side and 4 on my dad's. So I'm the firstborn. I'm the firstborn granddaughter on my maternal side. So there always was this level of responsibility and leadership that I think came with who I was from birth. So I think a lot of things were born into me, and God knew what was going to be necessary for me in every space in leadership and ministry and leadership. I always just had this level of responsibility to care for people and to lead them and to walk with a certain level of integrity, because I always felt like they were watching. My siblings were watching, everybody is looking. There is this mantle, there's this thing that's on her, and you have to do things this correct way or this right way. And in corporate leadership, one thing I think I realized from the door is dealing with being the oldest sibling and the leader in the family and having that, it didn't translate that easy for me in corporate. Once I got into that role, I thought I could just walk in this, and I thought I would be prepared with all of the, okay, NaQwanna's a leader. She leads her family. She leads her sibling, and this is who she is. And that stuff was all well and good. But when you hire people and they work for you, all of these people are made up differently. And that was a struggle for me at first. And I was used to knowing my siblings and knowing my family and being able to lead them and even being a leader within my friends. But these people were all coming from all these different walks of life and all needed different things from me as a leader. And I remember my mentor said to me, one time I was just struggling with hiring assistants, and I was hiring them, but being able to navigate the relationships had become a little bit of a struggle for me. And he said something that totally changed my perspective. And he said, you have to manage people according to who they are, NaQwanna. Like, you can't manage to this style of who NaQwanna is, and this is this level way you walk, but you have to manage them according to who they are and what they need. And I was like, oh. And that really changed me. I mean, every person needed something different. I might have hired somebody that was super green and fresh out of college, and they might have needed something else. And like, I'll give an example of the current assistant that I have. And I am grateful for that. We've been together 2 years. And when she started, she was, very quiet, very green, not long out of college. But recently she wrote me a letter, and she said to me that I have helped her find her voice. That changed my whole life. Like, that
Wow.
totally changed, because I'm known to have this boisterous voice in our industry, and I never take no for an answer. I'm always outspoken and I'm loud. That's the passion that's within me. So I'm going to be the loudest one in the room, the one to speak up. And I see the growth in her, and she is not afraid to speak her mind. And she said, that's you. That is you. You have given me the courage and the ability to be able to use my voice in this industry. And that is something that she'll walk away and move to another area and another company, and she will take with her forever. But I was able to take the words from my mentor and manage her according to how she needed to be managed. She came in fragile. She came in, I don't know what to say, and very nervous. And I had to figure out how to groom her according to what she needed. And that required, over the years, growth and change within me, noticing if I intimidate people or make them feel uncomfortable, or things I do, like being cognizant of my own behaviors. And if my voice was a level that wasn't okay for somebody, and they may not ever say it, but being able to notice those things and how they react. And those are things that I really, really learned. Like, if I use my hands, are you intimidated by me using my hands? Are you not looking me face to face because I'm having this whole Brooklyn way about me and my hands are going every second? But how do I change that if it's impacting how you grow and how you learn? And that has definitely, there was a challenge that I'm glad that I have now been able to navigate, and God has helped me to be able to figure out and to notice me and see me, and be able to say, okay, God put me to that. Like, I want to be able to be, even like, we say in ministry, God used me as a vessel, and we say it in the kingdom, but like, I want to be used here too. I want to be used as an instrument to empower and have assistants that walk away from me with messages like the one I have now, that can say, you've impacted me in this way. So I think that has really, really helped me to work with each one of them differently and give them what they need and the tools they need to grow within the industry. So really learning people, learning what they need, and understanding that even though I had this makeup about me that I thought could just take me through, and I could be this leader and I could just lead people the way I was used to, but learning, like, ma'am, like, you have to learn each one of these people separately and give them what they need separately. And that has also helped me as a parent. My children are
Wow.
night and day, and they are totally different from each other. And that has helped me be able to navigate what Torian needs is not what Tegan needs. And I have learned that so I really have applied that to every piece of my life, and it has definitely changed me for the better. So that started out a little rough 10 plus years ago, but I mean, by God's grace, I have definitely grown in that realm. So I'm grateful for that.
And I think you've given some really good tips. I mean, that first, that I think the challenge of people in leadership is one that is not new. It has been around forever, but the advice your mentor gave of managing people according to who they are and what they need, I think really is the lesson of this entire podcast. Outside of this conversation, outside of being bold to do what God says, the idea that even if we have strong leadership skills, you said these things were innate in you. You were born that way.
Yes.
And you've been leading in so many areas of your life. There's always room for adjustments. And as you adjust, it's not adjusting the people you lead, is what I heard you say, but it's adjusting how you as a leader lead other people. I feel like that's a Selah moment. So a question for our listeners, how are you leading other people? Are you expecting them to change to adjust to your leadership? Or are you adjusting your leadership to the people that you are leading? And we're going to have a pause there. It's something to think about.
It is. It really, really is. It really is. Something just came to me that I definitely I'm going to try to find before we end this, the name of this. And if not, it's definitely something I want to get the information for the listeners. But at a leadership conference last year, there was this book that we've read, and I'm definitely going to find it. And it really just talked about the traits, and oh my goodness, God is so good. It really talked about the traits that are within you that we bring into leadership roles, right? Are you the always on person? So do you have this hyper personality, and do you always expect your people to operate that way? Are you the perfectionist and you never want a mistake to happen? And do you expect your people to operate in that form? Like these things that are within you, do you carry them out within your teams of leaders? And at this meeting, they had us do this questionnaire of kind of like who we are. You perfectionists, and I don't remember all the different ones, but then we went into different groups and huddled by who you are. And then it was like some questions about, okay, so your team does this, and how do you react to that? And you really got to see how you let those behaviors trickle down to your people, even though they may not be those kind of people, right? They might be more of a person that is more quiet and monitor, and you're always on. So you're coming in, hey, what's that? Loud and whatnot, and that's how you are. And they like, well, wait a minute, this is not who I like, ma'am, please pipe down. This is too loud. But you have to know. And if you're a perfectionist, are you giving your people room to make mistakes? Are you allowing them? One thing I always say to my assistants is, I am going to cover you. Like even in emails, if my assistant makes a mistake, I will write the email and say we, or our team, we dropped the ball. Because to me, that's important. I remember the days of people throwing me under the bus for mistakes I made. That hurt, and it didn't make me feel good. And yes, I made the mistake, but as a leader, they didn't cover, so those are things that are important. How do we treat those people? Like, well, Susie did it and she made a mistake. So I learned a lot from that last meeting, and so I didn't even really put it together how that really is a lot of what I just said, like the way I was raised and who I was and who God made me to be, how I thought that's how I was, and going to lead, and that was going to just be a natural thing for me. And I had to learn that all of these people are maybe totally different, and what they need is totally different.
Mm-hmm. And that is good leadership. And we talked in a previous episode, and hopefully for our listeners, if you have not heard the previous episodes, go and take a listen. But we talked in a previous episode with Dr. Stephanie Kirkland about leadership identity. And she talked about who you are at your core. Who you are is how you lead. And so I think that's a really good conversation. Oh, our time is going by so fast. I want to talk to you about your style for a minute. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, because you are probably one of the most stylish people I know. And for those, again, who are listening, NaQwanna does have a styling firm. Yes. And She has worked with me. I recently lost some weight and I was wearing some clothes that just were a little ill-fitting. And she kind of commented, "Hey, have you tried this?" And the next thing you know, she is now my stylist. And someone asked me, why do you have a stylist? And I realized that there are some things in working with you that I have learned. And so, if you are considering a stylist, I highly recommend NaQwanna.
Thank you.
But one of the things that you taught me is how to connect my wardrobe with who I am, my personality. I was used to focusing on what was it expected in a given, if I'm in corporate space, the blue, the gray, the suit, all of those things, and really what would fit my body. So what would fit. And what I've learned in working with you is that you can express yourself and in every situation. And it's more about who you are and what your personality is and how you style. And so you have helped me even build my confidence. That another plug for a previous episode. We talked about confidence and leadership. I love how these are connecting, but changing how I dress. And these things I think have been subtle, but people have made comments like something is different. It all kind of works together.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
You are a stylist and you definitely look like you stepped off a runway every time. Even y'all listen, even when NaQwanna is out at the park with the kids, she is looking like she's ready for a photo shoot. I don't know, but for those of us who don't work in fashion, can you give us a few style tips as leaders before you go? Because I don't want to lose your styling expertise. What are the few tips you can give for leaders?
For leaders, I think that leaders should always be confident. And one of the things that I think is most important to me is to think about things that make you feel confident. And with confidence is usually what things make you feel comfortable, right? So wearing things that make you feel comfortable will make you feel confident. So if you are wearing things that are uncomfortable, you're not really a skirt girl, and you're trying to wear this skirt suit, you are not going to feel confident because you don't feel comfortable. So that is probably one of the key things. So I always tap into what is going to make me feel comfortable because, baby, when I'm comfortable, I'm confident. I always, feel good about myself when, I'm my most comfortable self. So I think that's one of the areas that you and I work, and I do that with all my clients. Like, what do you like to wear? What makes you feel good? Because we start there. So it's okay if you prefer pants, it's okay if you prefer skirts or dresses or flats or heels. But if you are not a heel girl, please, don't, let's not wear the heels. That's not going to make you feel comfortable. And you can't, those are, I think, and it's that simple for people to even think about because people try to make themselves something that they're not and think that that's going to build a level of confidence in leadership. But it starts with you being comfortable. You don't have to be anything or anyone else. You have to be who you are. And that's going to shine through with your wardrobe and with, you as a leader. So I start with that. Like, how are you comfortable? Because you have to show up confidently and your comfort is key. So in these days and times, even leaders, we just went to another leadership meeting this past February. And it's funny. Ed, you spoke to it. I'm super confident, I think, about my style and about what I want to wear. But a lot of women in my industry haven't fully developed the sneaker fashion thing. Right. So that's still kind of new. We wear that on the weekends with a little dress and we wear the sneakers. But I believe that in the time we are in, sneakers in leadership is fine. Right. And I haven't elevated to that, but I was like, okay, is the rest of the team with me on this elevation? Or am I going to show up to this meeting and be the only one in sneakers? Because I think that, and I'm business casual. I got the top, I have the slacks, but I have my sneakers. So I'm like, oh. And that was like the first time in a long time for me that I like second guess, like, because I only was packing sneakers. I didn't even pack a pair of heels. And I'm like, is this okay, NaQwanna? And I said, you know what? This is who you are. And you're going to, I'm confident about this. I'm going to be comfortable in this. And can I tell you something? Every meeting, people were stopping me. Every meeting, people were like, oh my gosh, you look so cute. Because I was exactly who I was, comfortable in who I was. I was not walking around in heels. I was not going to be, I mean, we were in Vegas at a resort. I said, I'm going to be as comfortable as I possibly can. And can I tell you, the CEO of our total company, Men's Warehouse, had on sneakers with his tuxedo at the dinner. And I had on sneakers with my dress, and that was something that bonded us. He came up to me and was like, "Oh my gosh, we're so cool!" Like, this is what he was saying to me, because I was comfortable, and I just stepped out there and did it. And there was like a group of people, of like really men, not the women, that had on like tuxedos with like Jordans and Nikes, and they were like, "Oh my God!" Like, they were so excited to have on sneakers with this. I had this whole poofy dress with these sneakers on, but I think just being comfortable is the way you start. I think it is the key. And that's what I do with a lot of my clients. It's already hard enough leading. I mean, we just spoke about challenges within leadership and all of that, right? And that was just one of, so many that leaders go through. So being comfortable in your fashion and how you show up should be something that is natural and makes you feel good, and doesn't, you already have to make sure you're dealing with people right and handling things correct and talking a bit like it's already all of that other stuff. Like, you want to not be trying to look the part of someone else or look the part of what people think you should look like. You want to be comfortable in your own skin. Listen, be comfortable and it will give you confidence.
Be comfortable and it will give you confidence. I think that's where we end. I think that's where we end. Before we do, I just want to ask you, how can people reach you? I want you to tell us that. And also, is there anything that you're working on that you want to share? Give us all the deets. Give us all
the deets.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I found the book. So it is called Multipliers, and it is by Liz Wiseman. The name of it is Multipliers: How the Best Leaders Make Everyone Smarter. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that book. It really helped. But so for anybody listening, I think that is a great book for leaders. So my number one form of contact currently is through Instagram. I am NaQwanna is my Instagram handle. Feel free to DM me and send me messages. I'm also on Facebook, if that's where people are located, under NaQwannaThomas. I can be reached through Messenger that way as well. Any messages that are sent, I am great about crafting packages special for people and the needs of people. So if you message me and there is something specific that you need or want or desire, I am, and your wonderful host can attest to the fact that I am great about crafting needs per each individual client. That's important to me. I am working on, I'm currently building a more specific website for people to be able to go to. I will have that information given to Belinda so she can share that once that is done. And that will have more, grand scale packages that people can just pick from. I think the thing that I'm most excited about that I'm doing right now is like monthly subscriptions, things that I could be able to do to impact people on a consistent basis. I'm also going to start working on a retainer package for people to kind of get me as they need and, utilize for different things along. People may not know up front what they need, like going into it, but know they might need the service or need the help. So we're going to figure out like, okay, if we have a retainer fee that's paid monthly or bi-monthly, what do those needs look like? So that's one of the big projects I'm working on right now, along with the website. So feel free to find me on either one of those social media platforms, and then I'll give you my direct phone number and contact information so that we can dig a little deeper into your personal style.
Thank you. So NaQwanna, this conversation was different than I expected, but absolutely a pleasure. Absolutely a pleasure.
Same.
Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. Please contact NaQwanna through Instagram, Facebook, and her soon to be released webpage.
Yes.
I highly recommend her styling services. And I was never the person to think I wanted or needed a stylist. So, and again, thank you, NaQwanna, for being on the Grace to Lead podcast. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you.
What an
And for
honor.
our listeners, thank you for joining us, coming back
Thank
this
you.
week. Again, remember to subscribe to our podcast, share the podcast. I'd love to get also
Yes.
your feedback. So email us and let us know what you thought of this episode. And until we talk again, have a wonderfully blessed week. Bye-bye.